Before calling the professional, maybe it's DIY-able.
Welcome to another DIY project. In this video series, I'll guide you through the entire process, covering everything from HVAC relocation, tile installation, and electrical work to disconnecting gas lines, plumbing, and of course, installing IKEA cabinets like a pro. Let's get started. This time, we're tackling how to identify and remove a non-load-bearing wall. The goal is to eliminate the outdated corner pantry as part of the kitchen makeover. Let's consider the current kitchen layout. One of the planned changes is to relocate the fridge from the left side to the right. This move requires the removal of the corner pantry. How can we determine if this pantry is non-load bearing? Online advice suggests checking the direction of the wall and the joists. We have to check this wall on the left. If the joist in the basement runs parallel as the wall, it's most likely not a load-bearing wall. Let's confirm by checking the basement. Yes, the joists do run in the same direction. However, this is only part of the assessment. We also need to check upstairs. This is the master bathroom on the second floor, with the bathtub located directly above the corner pantry. There's no wall or stud that extends up to the ceiling to support the roof. Let me give you an example. I recently opened up another wall for electrical work, and as you can see, there are 7 2x6 that have been sistered together. While I can't confirm if this is a load-bearing wall, given that it's located in the center of the house, I wouldn't risk touching it. There is sufficient evidence that this is a non-load-bearing wall. The first step is to uninstall the hinges and remove the door, followed by taking out the shelves. After that, remove the granite countertop on the left of the corner pantry. Next, use a hammer to pry open the trim. I use an inspection camera to check. Although this wall is not load-bearing, it does contain PEX water pipes and HVAC duct inside. Before opening up the wall, let's remove the upper cabinet next to the wall. I pry open the particle board to show you how the builder installed the kitchen cabinets. You don't have to do this. It's just for informational purposes. Next, we remove the glass tile and the drywall. Look, there is the HVAC duct and PEX water pipes. Now, we've got more work to do to properly relocate them. I guess you have an idea what we need to do next. I'll guide you through removing the floor tile and thin set to prepare for air duct and PEX plumbing relocation. After that, we'll move on to some basic framing and finally drywall installation. Demolition is fairly straightforward. It just requires some common sense and a bit of force. Next, we'll need to remove some tiles and thin set in this small area. Done correctly, the entire tile should come off cleanly, just like this. I'll create a dedicated video on how to do this for the entire kitchen, as there are some trade secrets involved. Now, we can see the subfloor. I highly recommend enclosing the area with plastic drop sheets. Next, we need to mark the exact locations for the new PEX plumbing and the air duct. On the left, you can see the old ones. We'll be relocating them to the right. Here's a DIY tip. Always start with a small drill bit to create a pilot hole. Check the basement to confirm you're drilling in the correct spot. This is my DIY deck and garden in the backyard, a project I spent 3 years building. Check out my channel if you're interested. According to building code, we're allowed to run both hot and cold PEX pipes through the same hole. We drilled a 2-inch hole in the 2x6, followed by drilling through the subfloor. We rotated the old duct to point to the right, and it will now run down to the basement through the square hole we cut earlier. That is pretty self-explanatory. Moving on to the basement, we will connect the existing air duct on the left to the new one on the right. It looks a bit ugly, but it's the easiest solution to hang it underneath the joists. A DIY tip. On top of using screws, always use aluminum foil tape to seal leaks. This makes your HVAC system work more efficiently. I never use cloth duct tape, as it's not as durable. We need to drill 2-inch hole to run the PEX pipes. If you have engineered joists, you have to be very careful. It's very important to find out joist manufacturer and review their specifications for hole placement. If you don't follow the guidelines, you could risk serious damage to your home. Next, we need to install a 2x6 between the joists. Always pre-drill the holes before using the impact driver. This 2x6 will support the vertical stud we'll be installing. For a high-quality DIY job, always check for level to ensure everything is properly aligned. Let's talk about PEX plumbing. On the left, we have SharkBite, and on the right, Crimprite. I'll need to make a separate video to go into detail, but I personally don't recommend SharkBite. For DIYers, I strongly suggest using Crimprite. We will install the 2x6 at the end and attach it to the existing stud. It's very easy. Look, everything is looking good. This part is very important. Never attempt this on a statutory holiday when your local hardware store is closed. We'll be turning off the main water supply to the entire house. So, if you forget any parts, you'll be very screwed. For the next couple of hours, we won't have any water. We are cutting the existing PEX pipes and drain all the water. Our goal here is to connect them to the new pipes. PEX is DIY friendly. It requires no skills and experience. All you need is common sense. Always use the PEX go-no-go gauge to check. That's the key to a successful installation. Look, the basement connection is complete. Back in the kitchen, these PEX pipes supply the master bathroom upstairs. We need to find a way to connect them to the new pipes we just installed in the basement. We're preparing to build a box. In construction's term, it is called a bulkhead. Of course, we'll need to remove this 2x6. Both the hot and cold pipes can go through the 2-inch holes we drilled earlier in the engineered joist. PEX pipes are designed to allow 90-degree turns without leaking. Once positioned, securely crimp the fittings using the PEX crimping tool. That's the new setup looks like. The plumbing is complete, so we can now turn on the main water valve. Next, we'll secure the electrical wires and run them through the bulkhead. Let's move on and work on framing. If you measure it correctly, you should have a tight fit like this. That's Carpentry 101, and this is high DIY quality I am talking about. Now, we are using 1x1 lumber to build the bulkhead. Use your creativity and common sense. Always make sure it's level. If not, you will have a lot of issues down the road. Since we removed the 2x6 earlier, to provide support, we'll install a piece of scrap wood and secure it using drywall screws. Make sure the wood you use is thick enough to prevent the drywall screws from puncturing the vapor barrier. It is a good time to run the motion sensor wire for the alarm system. Don't forget to use red sheathing tape to seal the vapor barrier. I put a scrap board at the bottom. You don't want to touch the subfloor. Fasten the drywall screws to the stud. I cannot stress this enough. Always check level. To secure the newly cut drywall to the ceiling, we'll need to add a piece of wood here, since there's no joist for support in this spot. The rest of the board can be attached directly, as there are joists available for proper support. There are some imperfections where the new drywall meets the old one. I'm using an orbital sander to level the seam. Next, we'll apply drywall joint tape. Here's a DIY tip. Avoid using paper drywall tape unless you're a professional. It can cause a lot of headaches. Instead, go with self-adhesive mesh drywall tape, and you will thank me for that. For the corners, we'll install the metal corner bead trim. Pay attention, we are driving the screws into the small holes, not the big ones. Also, drive deeper into the trim with slightly recessed, creating a small dimple. The small holes won't always be available, especially near the ends after cutting the trim to length. If that's the case, just make a hole yourself. Always ensure there's a stud or solid backing behind the trim for secure attachment. Finally, we'll apply the drywall compound. Personally, I like to use CGC Dust Control Drywall Compound. I won't go into too much detail since it's a bit boring, but here's a key DIY tip. Make sure you invest in the right drywall mudding tools. Having the proper tools plays a major role in achieving professional-looking results. I hope this will help your renovation project. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to follow the rest of the kitchen renovation progress. My goal is to inspire more people to dive into DIY. Be sure to check out my other videos. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.